And I saw this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't get to talk about it last podcast, but I wanted to talk with you about it. So Carmelo Anthony says he wants to work with Cade. And I want to kind of spin this question. What area do you think Carmelo Anthony could help Cade with the most?
Whew, that's a really good question. Because I see a lot of, I don't say I see a lot of similarities, but in terms of their body type, their ability to operate as a three-level scorer, I think Melo could unlock a lot. I think what would help the most is his finishing. Cade struggled a lot with like his floater finishing around the rim consistently. And it obviously wasn't still getting enough free throws, as he should have. But I think his finishing, especially late in games, I think is going to be a big difference for him. Melo saw his healthy number of double teams, when he was with the Nuggets, when he was with the Knicks, basically everywhere in his career. And I think Melo will be able to kind of help him with that footwork of being a quick, decisive scorer, where sometimes Cade would dribble a little bit too long and, it would give defenses a little bit more time to collapse on him. I think Melo will do a good job of helping Cade be a better finisher and get a quick release jumper or, at least an attack against his opponent to, get them off balance right away instead of waiting. They did a good job at times of getting Cade off ball and letting Asar or Dennis Schroeder bring the ball up and then let Cade play off ball from there. And there were a lot of times where he would post up around, the mid block and, isolated work from there, which was kind of, Melo's bread and butter. So I think that would also be, pretty helpful to see. Like you say, Cade could be a 30, point scorer if he wanted to. He doesn't have to be because I think passing is the best part of his game. But I do think that scoring, deadliness to be able to, be just a nightmare matchup one-on-one just opens up so much. Now, granted, I think that could still be limited if the amount of help around him isn't there. Like if Ivy's not healthy or if they don't bring in another, dynamo scorer, we're going to see this extra attention for Cade for a long time. And I really think Trajan Langdon understands that that has to be priority number one to make sure that teams can't just overload on Cade and, do whatever they want to do from that regard. So I don't know. I think Melo with Cade in an offseason would be fantastic for him. I just think it would unlock so much of his scoring, his footwork in the post, his ability to get to the free throw line. I just think Melo could teach him a lot. And I really like this side of Carmelo. I've been a big fan of him since he was, a rookie and even back in Syracuse. To see him kind of step up as big brother, even in the Garden where he was beloved. I just think it's really cool to see him embrace this part of his career and his life. And I think Kay will be a huge beneficiary of it.
I know Carmelo on his podcast talked about like K just needs that, 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
And when I was listening to him say that, like K does have a little bit of post moves, but I think Carmelo could like really redefine and polish that to a point where maybe Cade has 1, 2, or maybe even 3 post moves, like go-to moves that he can just score on anybody. And doesn't matter whether it's a big or a point guard. And I think that's where Melo could help Cade with a lot. But Eric, I'm going to be honest with you. The amount of people, when they saw this quote, the negativity with it, I was surprised. Given how this is a completely different topic, given how many Pistons fans wanted Melo over Darko, like, nah, we don't want Cade working with Melo. He's got poor work ethic. We don't want him working with Melo. We don't want him to develop bad habits. He's just trying to get Cade out of Detroit and go to New York. Like some of this is like crazy off the wall stuff. I'm sorry. That guy's one of the best scorers in NBA history.
Yes.
Like if Cade wants to work with Carmelo Anthony, let him, because he can teach him a lot of stuff. Especially in the post, one-on-one isolation scoring. I mean, I think some Pistons fans, maybe they didn't get to watch Carmelo that much. Maybe they just watch Pistons games. That's it. Like Carmelo, in his prime, man, like, good Lord, like, that guy could score on anyone. It didn't matter who the hell it was. And I think he can definitely learn that way. Maybe he can learn of, how to kind of like elbow people without the ref seeing it. Because any podcast I watch, I was watching the Stanley Johnson podcast the other day saying like Melo was his toughest guard. And it's like the next day I'm icing up my whole body just because how physical he plays. Like I want Cade to kind of be like that physical, type of prolific scorer that Melo could help him, with develop his game. Because like if Cade is just making the opponent sore after each and every game, like I think that's really crucial come playoff time for him.
And that's what you want to see, especially where a lot of his, I don't want to say a lot of his scoring, but some of his scoring kind of dipped towards the fourth quarter because you would see him play a little bit tired based on how much extra attention that he was getting. But yeah, if you're able to beat up your, opponent in the post, especially off the tutelage of somebody like Carmelo Anthony, that's going to make him an absolute monster. There's a reason guys like Kobe Bryant called Melo the toughest cover of his entire career. I look at, like, to me, like I call Melo, like if you had a Mount Rushmore of guys who were just triple threat nightmares, like you give it to him in the post, he's got the ball in the triple threat position. I think Melo's one of the best players ever to be in that triple threat position. Like he was an absolute monster. And it wasn't just his jump shot or a fadeaway. He was getting to the rim too. And again, he was playing small forward. He was 6'9", played about like 240, 250. He was a big boy. And Cade Cunningham is a huge point guard who's in shape, very strong himself, and is going to put on more muscle heading into next season. So if there's, I don't see a better person for him to learn from in terms of retired players. Like I feel like he is a perfect guy to kind of teach and coach, some of that footwork that he could, upgrade and work on. I also think that I wish he was still alive. I think Kobe would have been a really good person for Cade to learn from too, because I feel like he's kind of that same ilk for the way that Kobe used to play in terms of attacking and in terms of his preparation as a basketball player. I think this is a match made in heaven for him. Even I feel like what's his name? Rondo. I think Rondo talked about wanting to work with Cade as well. Those are two of the perfect Rondo too. Oh, cute. I feel like those are two of the most perfect names that could help Cade in terms of finishing as a scorer, working on turnovers as a passer, being a floor general as a point guard. Those are two of the best names that he could work with. And I feel like we'd see an immediate improvement that will put him in those kind of elite level MVP kind of conversations as soon as next season.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have two former players that when I was growing up watching, they were at the top of their games. Like Rajon Rondo was just such a floor general for the Boston Celtics and throughout his career. Like Cade could definitely learn, passing angles from Rondo, pick and rolls, how to manipulate defenses. I think Rondo would be such a really big, mentor for him to learn. Because especially with the turnovers this year, obviously he's a high usage guard. He's going to have turnovers, but if Rondo can kind of give him some pointers of like how to pass the ball without it being a turnover, I think it would be a plus. And getting to be a mentor, by Carmelo Anthony. I mean, Cade with the jab step, Cade with just like a go-to move in the post. Like Melo said, if he had a 1-2 post move, he'd be unstoppable. Like no one would be able to guard him. Like he mentioned like an Andre Miller who it's a throwback. Like he used to work in the post. He mentioned the Chauncey Billups. Like those guys used to love to kind of back down and work in the post and just make their opposing opponent tired down low. But like I think I'd love to see Melo work with Cade. I've also like to see Rajon Rondo. I remember that episode on Run It Back with FanDuel. So a lot of these greats see how good Cade is, and they want to work with him to make him even better, which I absolutely love to hear and see. Do you have anything more you want to add to that conversation, or are you good?
If he can find one more name to kind of help him with that 3-point shot, I would love that too. Seeing Cade's 3-point numbers dip the way they did after Ivy, went out really sucked to see. Like he was really playing with a lot of confidence. Like I'll even go back to like I think it was the Kings game on the road where he puts up the 3 on the in front of somebody, and then he's screaming before the ball even goes in because he knew it was going to drop. That confidence wasn't there basically after the All-Star break. So I don't know if we need to go holler at Drewski or whoever it was that ruined his 3-point shot, but that was tough to see. Hopefully, he can find that rhythm and consistency, because you can't see him go 0 for 7 or 0 for 8, in game 6 of a playoff stretch. You can't see it. He's got to find some kind of comfort. He don't ever have to be Steph Curry, but he should never be 0 for or just struggling consistently from finding that rhythm in a 3-point spot. So, someone else can help him. I think Melo was like maybe a 35, 36% career 3-point shooter. If you can help him with that too, that would be great. Because that would also unlock so much more out of Cade's game.
Yeah, I mean, even like, assistant coach Fred Vincent, I feel like he could definitely, help Cade a little bit more. But I also think like the 3-point performance in, the last 2 games was just tired legs at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because he had the ball in his hands so much. Like his usage rate was like up there with Jokic. It was like absolutely ridiculous of how much he had the ball. I think I saw a graphic where he had 400 possessions per game or something like that in his hand, which is just like absolutely like crazy. And it kind of shows you like how bad he needed like a second option next to him or a secondary like creator.